Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pizza Party. A little bit early, but today what I wanted to talk to you all about was what do we really know about resistance? And as many of you who have kind of followed the podcast in the past know, I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Alberta, looking specifically at is to be very aware of the state of literature and then where my role is as a person trying to build a program of research to be able to add to the existing body of literature. And I'm going to start this episode talking a little bit about my story getting into this because I think that it's relevant. So, reactive population. I love older adults. You know, I'm part of the older adult division. And I had two children while I was going through my doctoral studies. I was going part time. And then I was also a national level weightlifter before I got pregnant with my daughter. So I was doing a lot of heavy resistance training during my pregnancy. And I had during my pregnancy talking about, obviously off on that leave, et cetera. And one of my community members, his name is Stu Phillips. Many of you know him from the protein metabolism and resistance training literature. He said, Christina, if you think there isn't any research in loading the older adult appropriately, woof, when it comes to what we know in pregnancy. And I found that super fascinating. And of course, being the researcher that I am, I looked into the research and I recognized that he was right. And so I kind of want to talk today about what we truly do know, what the state of the literature is, a little bit about me trying to change that. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my research studies, and then where we can go going forward. So we know in a general population that resistance training is one of the best things that we can do for our overall health, right? I don't tend to try and put people into specific buckets that you have to exercise in a specific way, because the best exercise of longevity and into supporting whatever exercise you like to do with resistance training is definitely a recommendation that I'm going to make a lot of passion. Whether to prescribe to that to prescribe to that exercise program or not, resistance training is one of these exercise modalities that is going to allow us to have independence. It's going to stave off a lot of chronic disease and musculoskeletal and we know that exercise is the one that we start as early in our life as possible and go into older adulthood. I'm going to try and put on as much muscle mass as I can before the age of 40 and then hold on to it for dear life until like 100. And so we have a lot of really positive evidence for resistance training in a general reproductive age population, but then also in adulthood. We've talked a lot about it in the segment. But we don't have evidence, right, around exercise, or we don't have any evidence in any type of intervention in pregnancy, we freeze. Where bed rest, pelvic rest recommendations have come in when complications can creep up and people back from activities of daily living, sport, exercise, and we say, like, let's not do anything because there's this complication happening. And where evidence is starting to show now is that many of our complications have pro-inflammatory cascades, and therefore exercise might be a really important mitigating factor or modifiable influence on a person's experience of complications during pregnancy. But the baseline is that our recommendations are specific around resistance training. So when we look at public perception of resistance training or exercise in pregnancy in general, it's really because aerobic training is definitely seen as positive, is something that you're going to benefit. A person lifts a heavy deadlift, and the perception is generally more negative because your danger research is. And then two, we have to this before and how in low to moderate. So right now, it's a lot of work to get the systematic review control, but what we that look at resistance training and isolation. And you may not think that's necessarily a bad thing because a lot of people are exercising in multiple modalities. Think about functional fitness and literacy. Individuals who respond and continue to do aerobic training have less rates things already. So when we put in a known benefit then kind of add in resistance training, we can't say with confidence that resistance training reduces our risk of gestational diabetes, because we know that aerobic training does, and in isolation. And we can't isolate and say resistance outcome and also X, Y, and ABC done in isolation. We can't really say some sort of benefit. The thing with our current state of the literature is that the resistance training research is unbelievably underdosed. So I'm going to make a comparison for you. So the evidence of congestive heart failure in their 70s and 80s is higher dosed than a lot of the resistance training literature in pregnancy. Let me say that again. A lot of our dosing for resistance training is higher in our older adults with frailty-related pregnancies. When I'm looking at that research, that makes me sad. And it just shows how much is 70-80% heart rate reserve, which is a great intensity for the aerobic training. And the resistance training part of the exercise program is using a yellow TheraBand. I see red and I start to rage. And so, right. And so we are going in almost in who are pregnant age, that's not an appropriate dose in the aerobic side. So this brings me to our next is, if resistance training isn't dosed appropriately, if I am getting an individual who is pregnant with no complications to do a 16-week exercise program where the max amount that they are allowed to lift is 2 kilos or 4.4 pounds, and I wish I was lying about that prescription benefit for aerobic training, it's hard to see the additive effect of resistance training in combination with the fact that the resistance training prescription is a problem. It creates a problem, and it creates all the downstream issues that we're seeing where pregnant individuals are restricted, right? Like when our max is a yellow, that don't lift more than 20, don't more than 30 pounds, that's not going to get better because we don't have any evidence to back us up, right? And so this is like a call to action around how we need to change some of our thought. This is not okay for this to be this conversation. Like we're extrapolating literature we have right now, like light toning exercises seem to be okay. Literally the term in a big conglomerate of our RCTs was saying that they did aerobic training and light toning for our resistance training interventions. And that drives me. It drives me with just unbelievable amounts of passion about why it is so important for this clinician science bridge to happen. It is, I will not step away from literature and doing research because we just need to demand so much better. And so what does that mean going forward? So when we are thinking about our literature base, when the state of the literature is a 2-pound dumbbell, and I'm saying I want to do an RCT where women are deadlifting over 100 pounds, you can imagine that that amount of gap can create issues with an IRB board or an ethics board saying, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't five, which kind of our clinical commentaries, our professionals who are doing evidence isn't there to back us up. And then we go retrospective, prospective, at the top of this evidence pyramid. So when we are trying to build an area that does research to back us up, we need to start building levels of evidence. And that's what I'm trying to do. And so this started with our cross-sectional survey. You've heard us talk about this on our podcast, this podcast in the past, where the first thing that we have to do is show that there are individuals who are heavy lifting during their pregnancy. And so the cross-sectional survey that was published last year was the view of what they're allowed to do. If you're doing it before, you can continue doing it now. Just don't strain your body. And even the strain on the body is a little bit question marks because, you know, there's so much that goes into it, etc. Right? It creates a situation where we recognize that there is a need because there is an absence of literature and there are people who need the answers to that. The next part is that we're going to start doing retrospective data taking. And so right now I have 2 research studies that are open for enrollment. And I am going to beg all the clinicians who are listening to this, if you have a person who fits the bill. So our retrospective study is supposed to birth last year and track your exercise through training app. So if that was Wodify, if that was an Excel spreadsheet, if that was, pen and paper, whatever it may be, if you tracked your exercise during pregnancy, specifically your resistance training, what you're trying to do is descriptively see, how did people modify? Are there any issues with resistance training that are popping up as that clinicians or providers or obstetricians need to be aware of? And then how can we use that information to start help counseling individuals on strength training during pregnancy? And so that's a retrospective study. We also have a study open for analysis. This is taking 3.5 years to get out, but that's okay. So we are taking individuals who are less than 20 weeks pregnant, in that first trimester, first half of their pregnancy, and we are following them forward over time. So every trimester, we are asking individuals questions about exercise during pregnancy, and we are asking you to upload your training logs. And so with that, and then the prospective at my next goal that looks at different dosing schemas, for individuals with during pregnancy. And so if any individuals or in pregnancy, it is so necessary, it is so needed, and we are going to be leading the way in our pelvic division. We are very actively involved in research. Obviously, I'm a postdoctoral research fellow, so I'm there in the weeds of it, but also our other faculty are involved in the trend that we do this the right way. We gradually build a level of evidence, and I am not okay where we are right now. We need to do better. I will be part of the trying to make this better. And I'm recruiting you all to my Instagram at Dr. And you can hopefully sign up for some of our studies. All right. If you are wanting to hear me get all fired up about other stuff, or you want to hear some of our faculty on the road, we have 2 courses in July that are still open for participation if individuals want to sign up. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio. That is a smaller course. So if you are interested, July 2021, I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you are interested, July 27th, 28th in Wyoming. If you cannot get on the road because of kiddos, is coming early because kiddos are home for the summer, we have our next online cohort starting July 6th. So we are past 90% sold out for that course. So if you are looking to get in, please don't wait, because there may not be the opportunity, and then you'll have to wait until the fall. All right, that's all I got. I'm in 19 minutes. I'm sorry, I just get so passionate talking about resistance and pregnancy. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and